Hi guys, welcome back to G Chats with your host G. We are in the G spot and today's episode is going to be a Q&A, and I know so many of you are excited for this, as I am as well. I love when you guys send in questions and I get to answer them because I want to talk about things that you guys want me to talk about. So I'm excited to dive right in. I have the list of questions here on my iPad, and honestly, we are not going to waste that much time. Let's get right into the questions. So number one asks, do you plan on getting your probiotics peer reviewed? The answer is yes. I do want to get my probiotics peer reviewed. I know how important having a product that is peer reviewed is. And as a researcher, because at the end of the day, I'm a scientist first, I'm a biomedical engineer, I know the value in peer reviewed products and I know how important peer reviewed studies are. The only thing is they're really expensive, like super, super expensive. And I am a small business. And the business is my only job and I'm growing the business. And while, yes, the answer is yes, I do want to get peer-reviewed studies done. I just need to plan for it because they are expensive. They could be anywhere from $50,000 to $250,000. They're just super costly. There's also two different kinds of studies that can be done. There's just like basic research that can be done that's non-publishable that I could use for marketing purposes. So like internal studies. But then if I want to get like an actual peer-reviewed study published, that could be upwards of $50K to $100K. So I do want to do some internal work and internal studies that I can use for marketing because I do have access to a lab and I can do internal studies. But in terms of a legitimate peer-reviewed study, it is thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I am exploring like partnering with local universities, local hospitals and things like that, PhD students, master students, and making that a possibility. But I just have to be mindful of the costs and I would have to implement that into the budget and just think of those things. You know, it's not as simple as me saying, oh, let's do a peer-reviewed study. It's something that I have to plan for, but absolutely want to do it. Absolutely understand and know the value. And also I know the value that it is to the customer, the consumer as well, especially for people who are struggling with BV, yeast infections, UTIs, gynecological health issues. You want to, not just be picking up something off the shelf that it doesn't work. You want to be picking up things and buying things and spending your money on things that actually work. And while I believe it works, I understand the science, and I know that our product works. I have put measures in place, like making sure that's third-party tested. So all of the things, all the claims on the labels are true and real. We have a regulations team that also works with the FDA to make sure that we're not saying anything that doesn't make sense on the label. So I've done my due diligence to make sure that the claims I'm making are real, and I know that the product works, but I understand how valuable peer-reviewed studies are, and it's something that I 100% value as well, and I want to make sure we do in the near future. So as I grow, it is something that I am prioritizing. So next question is, does using baby wipes from front to back throw off your pH? And this question, it's a little difficult because it really depends on what you're using. Certain baby wipes, unfortunately, do have fragrances, preservatives, surfactants, and things that could irritate the vulva, things that could kill off the good bacteria in the vulva. There's even some wipes that have like certain essential oils and stuff that you want to stay away from. Personally, the wipes that I recommend, the wipes that I use are water wipes. And if you don't know what those are basically wipes. They're called water wipes. You could get them at CVS, I believe maybe like Target, Walmart, but I've gotten mine from CVS. They are literally a piece of cloth that has water on them. They're like 99% water. And then there's like a drop, I believe, of grapefruit or grapeseed extract. So like a drop of grapeseed oil. So there's nothing in it that's like harmful that'll throw off your pH or anything like that. It's pretty much like the cloth with water. And personally, I only use wipies when I go number two. If I'm in a public setting, I'm at work and I have to go to the bathroom and I go number 2, I clean up my butthole with water wipes, and they don't irritate the skin. They don't kill off good bacteria. They aren't anything that like hurts the vulva or anything like that. But I don't usually use wipies to clean the vulva unless I'm like on my period. So like if I'm just peeing, I just tap with toilet paper and that's it. I won't use wipies for my vagina, but I will use wipies if I'm on my period and I'm experiencing like a heavy flow and I change my pad and I want to clean up. I use my water wipes, and honestly, I've had no troubles with it, no issues with it. It's very good. And I have pretty sensitive skin. It's been very good on my vulva, very good on the good bacteria. There's nothing to me looking at the ingredients that point to it's going to throw off the good bacteria. It's going to cause an imbalance. It's going to throw off your pH. Like I don't think that would be the case. So some baby wipes can do that. Some wipies, there's so many feminine wipes on the market. Different brands sell a feminine wipe. And some of these feminine wipes also have essential oils and surfactants, preservatives, and things like that. Some wipes have like cranberry in them. And there's nothing topically like that that's beneficial for the vagina. You literally just need something very simple. Water and a cloth is good enough, and I usually just use it on the rectal area and not really the vagina unless I'm on my period. If you do want to use something like after the gym, the only feminine care brand wipe that I would recommend is Lumi. So Lumi uses mandelic acid. So it's not even, they call it a deodorant wipe, but they don't have like aluminum or anything in there. They have mandelic acid, which is an acid that is pH balancing to the skin. And if you pH balance the skin properly, you can stop the bad bacteria that is in sweat from growing and causing an odor. So you'll still sweat from the gym, but if your skin's pH is balanced, that bad bacteria won't overgrow and cause any problems. So honestly, my best advice is if you are going to use any wipey, stick with water wipes. It's like the most simple, bare type of wipey that exists on the market that I can actually get behind and recommend to you guys. Others might cause some problems. So number 3 is, how did you know how to choose the right anti-biofilm agent? And honestly, it all depends on your situation. And I kind of talk a lot about this in my vaginal health guidebook. I talk about all of the biofilm agents because first of all, there's like 3 main infections that usually can form a biofilm. That's a urinary tract infection where a biofilm can form in the bladder. There is bacterial vaginosis where Gardnerella associated pathogens specifically can cause biofilms. And then there's yeast infections where Candida can form a biofilm. So depending on the infection, depending on the previous treatment and things that you've tried in the past, these can all affect what I recommend as a biofilm disrupting agent. For people with urinary tract infections, sometimes like apple cider vinegar, the acetic acid is capable of degrading the biofilm within the bladder. But then for people with bacterial vaginosis, sometimes it is digestive enzymes. Other times I say triboric acid. Unfortunately, the research in biofilms is something that is emerging. It's something that's growing, and it is honestly, in my opinion, probably the number one culprit for why these infections come back, other than like gut and like a microbial imbalance. So a true microbiome imbalance in the gut and in the vagina. If you correct those, and you are correcting those, you're actively correcting them, and your infection is stubborn, my mind goes to either antibiotic resistance, which if you rule this out and you're not resistant to antibiotics or antifungals, my next thought is biofilms. That's exactly where my mind goes to. And so if you explore biofilms, in that you have to explore different agents, because the research is emerging. There isn't a one size fits all for some people. A good biofilm disrupting agent is lactic acid. And what produces lactic acid? Probiotics. So sometimes probiotics are enough to disrupt biofilms. Lactic acid gels are enough to disrupt biofilms. Boric acid can be used for some people, digestive enzymes. So it's a long list, and I talk extensively about that in my vaginal health guidebook. And there's so many more that I talk about. There's garlic, there's turmeric, there's a bunch of different agents. So yeah, I would maybe read my book because we talk a little more extensively about it, but obviously just from this, for the sake of this video, you can kind of get the idea that it is a little bit of a guess and check situation if you are suspecting a biofilm and you're looking into it and trying to decide which agent is best to be used for you. So yeah, but I would explore all of those. First, it really just depends on what your infection is. And then from there, from a clinical standpoint, from a like scientific standpoint, my recommendation would be based on like things that you've tried in the past and what your infection is. And then I can help like give you advice on what agent to use. But those are just some to name a few. So number 4 asks, how can you prevent getting BV after sex each time? Now, the best way to prevent BV as a whole is having a strong, resilient vaginal microbiome that is dominated. And how it's resilient and strong is it must be dominated with and by good bacteria, specifically lactobacillus. So this family of good bacteria produces lactic acid, antimicrobial properties, strengthens the vaginal tissue, keeps your vaginal tissue moisturized, elastic, thick. It does all the things. So good bacteria is so important to keeping bacterial vaginosis away, because if you didn't know, I did do a BV episode. Bacterial vaginosis is when the bad bacteria that naturally lives in the vagina overgrows because you are deficient in good bacteria. So this means that you lost good bacteria for a number of different reasons. You may have taken antibiotics for strep throat. You may have douched accidentally. You might be having hormonal changes due to pregnancy, due to PCOS, due to menopause, whatever the case may be. You lost good bacteria, and this loss of good bacteria allowed the natural bad guys in your vagina to overgrow, and now you have this overgrowth is the infection. Having Gardnerella present is not an infection, because exposure to Gardnerella, exposure to anaerobic bacteria is not a bad thing. It is directly the overgrowth when the microbial load is too high and it overgrew, and it 9 times out of 10 overgrows because you have nothing keeping it in check. And that thing that's supposed to police it and keep it in check is good bacteria. Good bacteria is supposed to keep it at bay. And if you lose this good bacteria, your natural defenders, now it overgrows. So the best way to keep BV away in general is having a resilient, strong microbiome that's dominated with lactobacillus. Now, if you are noticing that there's a connection that you are getting BV after sex, first, from a clinical standpoint, my question is, do you have a negative BV test result before sex, and then you have sex, and then you have a positive BV test result? If the answer is yes, I'd like to explore what are things in the sexual activity that could be causing it. Well, number 1 is seminal fluid. So are you allowing your partner to ejaculate inside of you? Because a lot of people don't realize this, but ejaculation fluid has a high pH of about an 8 or a 9. This high pH, unfortunately, when you expose the vagina to it over and over and over again through sexual activity, your vagina and the good bacteria is working in a feedback loop. Good bacteria likes acidity, and acidity likes good bacteria. And so your good bacteria, lactobacillus, produces lactic acid, but it then also uses this lactic acid to stay alive, grow, replicate, and all that. So you need acidity to keep the good bacteria in your vagina. And when you introduce such a high pH of about an 8 or a 9 into the vagina, unfortunately, this can suffocate some of that good bacteria. And when you suffocate some of that good bacteria, that is where you can kill off that good bacteria. And when you kill off that good bacteria, the bad guys that naturally live in the vagina, like Gardnerella, can overgrow. So there's a number of things during sex that can cause you to lose good bacteria. It can be the seminal fluid. It can be certain spermicides, certain lubricants, certain condoms. So it's really dependent on what you're using during intercourse that can be causing you to lose good bacteria. Now, There's also the possibility that your partner can be carrying Gardnerella on the penile microbiome, or if you are in a same-sex relationship, that your partner's vagina has Gardnerella in it. The thing is, if your vagina does not have good bacteria in it to protect you against Gardnerella, if your vagina is introduced to a microbial load of Gardnerella, but you don't have that good bacteria yet, like you took antibiotics, you treated BV, but your doctor did not tell you to use probiotics after antibiotics, it's very likely that BV is going to come back, especially if you've had the same partner, because if Gardnerella is present on their penile microbiome, the problem isn't that it's present, because the exposure to Gardnerella shouldn't immediately cause problems, but it will cause problems if you've never restored your vaginal microbiome with the good bacteria. So the key is to make sure that you are restoring after antibiotic therapy, restoring the microbiome with good bacteria. And it's possible that your partner has Gardnerella on them, whether the anatomy is a vagina or a penis, and them exposing your vagina to it can allow for the vagina to allow it to regrow and flourish, because there's nothing, again, keeping it in check, because you don't have your defenders there. So there's a number of things to consider here. The main thing that you need to remember is it's so important to restore the microbiome with good bacteria. You want to have good bacteria in the vagina. That's what's going to make your vagina resilient. But if you are introducing things that are going to kill it, like spermicides, lubricants, condoms, ejaculation fluid, certain condoms and all these things can make you lose this good bacteria, which in turn can allow BV to overgrow. So just a few things to consider when we're talking about sexual activity and intercourse, and finding this like connection between I'm having intercourse and I'm feeling as though I'm getting BV after. Confirm that you actually have it, and then explore, is it a spermicide that's killing the good bacteria? Is it ejaculation fluid that's raising your pH, that's giving bad bacteria the perfect opportunity to grow? Is it a certain condom that you're using? Or is it that you treated BV and it's directly after sex, you're not using any lube spermicides, but you feel that their anatomy being introduced into your vagina is directly then triggering BV? It could be that you never restored your microbiome with good bacteria, and the doctors always leave it out in therapy, and that's allowing BV to come back. So that's what I would say for that question. The next question is, what is cytolytic vaginosis? How do you treat it? And then what is lichen sclerosus? So let's first talk about cytolytic vaginosis. Cytolytic vaginosis is the overgrowth of good bacteria in the vagina, specifically the good bacteria that our vagina needs, which is lactobacillus. So this is the number one reason why when I started my business, I got a little bit of pushback. People were like, why didn't you just create a topical or vaginal probiotic suppository? Why did you go the oral route? This is like not discussed enough. But one of the number one reasons as to why people get BV, UTIs, or even yeast infections is because they have an imbalance in their gut microbiome as well. The gut and the vagina are incredibly connected. So it's very possible, if you are struggling with urinary and vaginal infections, that is stemming from an imbalance in the gut microbiome. And so number one, I recognize that. And I said, if you're going to correct the vaginal microbiome, you must correct the gut microbiome as well. So this basically feeds two birds with one stone. The other side of this is that if you are using a oral probiotic, something that you take orally, you are far less likely to get cytolytic vaginosis than you are if you use vaginal suppositories. So this is why a few questions ago, someone was asking about BV and like things like biofilm disrupting agents. And, you know, you can use lactic acid, you can use probiotic suppositories, but you're more likely to get cytolytic vaginosis with probiotics that you insert in the vagina than oral probiotics. So that's why I opted for oral probiotics that I use a specific technology to make sure they actually make it to the vagina, but they make it to the vagina in a way that can be used consistently to maintain and not feed an overgrowth. So unfortunately, some people can get an overgrowth of good bacteria if they are using too much acidic things in their vagina. So lactic acid gels, and then they're using probiotic suppositories, and then they're taking oral probiotics. It's just highly unlikely, if you are taking just an oral probiotic, that you'll have cytolytic vaginosis. It's pretty maintained when you are taking an oral probiotic supplement. So I would stick with that. Now, how do you cure it? This is something that's a little difficult, because ultimately, what you're going to want to do is kill off some of the good bacteria, and the way that you can do it is by introducing a higher pH to the vagina. And you can introduce a high pH to the vagina with something like baking soda. Baking soda baths have been used widely in order to raise the pH, and this can kind of suffocate and kill off some of the good bacteria. But it is a fine line that you need to walk, because you don't want to overdo it and kill off all of your good bacteria, all of your defenses, but you also want to use it just enough to kill off some, because too much of anything that's good is never good. We all know that. So you don't want to overdo it with the probiotics. And you can, if you're taking, like, some people tell me, oh, I'm already taking a probiotic and I want to try yours. Can I take both? And I'm like, no, just switch over. Just switch over and take ours. It can restore, and then it's good enough. It's a good enough amount and a good enough formula that it can maintain the good bacteria without overdoing it, causing an overgrowth. But then if you're using oral probiotics, you don't also want to use a suppository, a probiotic suppository, lactic acid gels, and just like overdo it in the good department. And then following that is, what is lichen sclerosus. And lichen sclerosus is an inflammatory skin condition. It is an autoimmune condition. So it's not something that you contract through sexual activity, or that you pass from one partner to another. It's nothing. It's not caused by bacteria. It is inflammation of the skin. And a lot of people who have lichen sclerosus also have things, an autoimmune condition, or things like vitiligo. So it is possible to have it, not being sexually active, or whatever the case may be. You don't get it from bacteria. It causes irritation, itching, burning, and uncomfortable symptoms of the vulva. And it usually is diagnosed by a vulvar specialist or a gynecologist. Sometimes it's misdiagnosed, but it is one of those like autoimmune conditions, skin conditions, that's just inflammation of the skin, not caused by certain bacteria or anything like that. Next question is, what are your long-term plans for With Meraki Co? So I want to keep expanding the brand line. I just want With Meraki Co to be the one-stop shop for all of your health and wellness needs. We are science-backed, and that's the thing. We care about science. We don't just push things just because being in the health and wellness space is cute and trendy. I want to create products and sell products that genuinely are backed by science, and I want a full body approach. So if you are having UTIs, BV, yeast infections because of gut dysbiosis, I want a gut dysbiosis or a gut healing product, which I'm launching soon. An immune boosting supplement. We have that. You can see I'm slowly expanding the brand line, all to support optimal female reproductive health. So I want to keep expanding the brand line, keep having science-backed formulations and science-backed products. I do want to get onto store shelves and sell inside of retailers. I think that that's like super important, super impactful, and super helpful, so that you guys have easier access to your favorite products. And I just want to keep growing my community on TikTok, keep growing the audience and reaching more people, creating more educational content. So ultimately, just keep growing, keep putting the foot on the gas pedal, keep building a safe space for women, just keep doing what I'm doing at a larger scale, ultimately. Next question is, what should I do about chronic yeast infections? So first, I would say look into resistance to antifungals, because that is a real thing. We always talk about antibiotic resistance, but a lot of people don't talk about antifungal resistance. So it's possible you have resistance to antifungals. Look into that, get that tested. Also confirm what what fungus is growing. Sorry, not bacteria, fungus. What fungus is growing? What family of Candida is it, or what a strain of Candida is it? Determining what strain it is, and then if you have resistance, is super, super important to getting you on the right track of the right treatment. Certain fungal treatments may work for you while others may not. Another thing to explore is biofilms. I know we talk about it extensively with BV. It's possible that your yeast infection does have a biofilm in which you can degrade the biofilm with digestive enzymes, boric acid, lactic acid gels. There's so many different things to explore and try out. Another thing is restoring your microbiome. Again, probiotics, good bacteria helps regulate the yeast in the vagina and keep the yeast at bay. Another thing to look into is your hormones. A lot of people don't realize, but chronic stress, also imbalances in their hormones can all feed and cause yeast to overgrow and persist. Another thing is gut dysbiosis. So a lot of people don't realize that if you are having chronic yeast infections, you probably have an overgrowth of candida in your gut. So it's really important to address balancing the vaginal microbiome, but also balancing the gut microbiome as well. So there's a number of things to consider. And honestly, I would start hitting all those points. I would explore what's causing the yeast to overgrow. Is it the fact that I don't have enough good bacteria in my vagina and I'm killing off this good bacteria in my vagina? Is it that I have gut dysbiosis? Is it my hormones? Is it my stress? Explore those things that can all be causing you to allow yeast to flourish and grow. Because listen, yeast is not a bad guy. We all have yeast in our gut. We all have yeast in our vaginas. That's not the problem. What's allowing it to overgrow? Is it the shift in our hormones, the shift of the microbial balance in the gut and in the vagina? You have to kind of pinpoint what's triggering it. And honestly, you can start with all of those, because having balanced hormones is incredibly healthy. Having a balanced gut microbiome is incredibly healthy. Balanced vaginal microbiome, incredibly healthy. Regulating your sugar intake, incredibly healthy. Like taking those measures, balancing your stress, like all of those things are good things to do with or without yeast infections. So I would try to find what the trigger is, finding what strain is causing your yeast infection, and is that strain resistant to any antifungal drugs, so that you could get better treatment options. So next question is, are your probiotics safe to insert vaginally? And my answer is no, just because our probiotics, it's a probiotic prebiotic formula that contains cranberry and vitamin D and with clarity. And then with Harmony has inositol, rhodiola, ashwagandha, and L-theanine. And so there's really no purpose for those added ingredients to be inserted topically. There's no benefit to it. So for that reason, and that reason alone, I would say it's pretty useless to like insert it vaginally. They are made to be able to withstand the stomach's acid to ensure that they get to the vagina. If you are looking to insert probiotics in the vagina, there are other brands that are made for that and maybe don't have the cranberry, the vitamin D, the ashwagandha, the inositol, things that like necessarily don't need to be in the vagina. But again, if you are going to put probiotics in your vagina, just be careful, because you can cause an overgrowth. You're more likely to have cytolytic vaginosis if you do insert probiotics and use probiotic suppositories than if you just stuck with an oral probiotic. But I understand sometimes you need the probiotics introduced in the vagina immediately after treatment of antibiotics or an antifungal, in which case you can use a probiotic suppository like Good Clean Love's probiotic suppository. I think it's called like Refresh. You can use that suppository like for 2 nights, 3 nights, and then like put it away and stick with your oral probiotics to maintain the good bacteria. You just don't want to overdo it with probiotic suppositories. But what you can do with our probiotics is you can always, if you can't swallow pills, you can open it up and actually mix it in with yogurt or juice or whatever you like to be able to take it in orally, but in a different way. So you don't have to struggle with the pill. If you can't take the pill, you can open it up. Just don't open it up and put it in your vagina. Open it up and mix it into a smoothie, yogurt, drink or something like that. So that's how I would use it. I would not recommend putting it in the vagina. Number 9 asks, will your products be sold in retail stores like Target or Walmart? And I actually just talked about this when we were talking about the plans for With Meraki Co. But yes, like selling onto store shelves is something that's super, super important for me, and super important for my customers. You guys want it to be accessible. You guys want to go in the store, see it, and take it, and pick it up. And so for that reason, yes, I am currently exploring it. It's something that's in the works for the near future. Weighing out the pros and cons of it, weighing out the cost of it, all of those things, talking to my manufacturer, making sure that we could handle the demand. All of those things are super, super important. So it is something that I'm actively looking into, something that I'm actively exploring. I don't have a timeline of when that will be made available, but it is something that I'm thinking about. So I'm super excited. And I love that you asked this question, because it shows me that you guys want it in stores as well. But for now, we are only selling directly on our website and through TikTok Shop. The next question asks, what tampons are okay to use? So I don't use tampons, but I do use pads and a brand that does sell tampons as well. My favorite brand of pads is the CVS Live Better brand. It is literally CVS owned brand, and they sell pads and they also sell tampons, but I use the pads, and it is the only pad that I've found on the store shelves that has 100% cotton from the top sheet all the way to the core, all the way to the bottom layer. The only thing that's not cotton is the glue to like stick the adhesive to stick onto the underwear. Everything else, the whole sheet through and through, top to bottom, is 100% cotton. And that is so important to me because a lot of these brands are like, 100% cotton top sheet. And I'm like, why is just the top cotton? Why not the middle, the center, the bottom? Why is it just the top sheet? Never really made a whole lot of sense to me, if I'm being honest, but that brand has through and through 100% cotton, and I use them. I love them, and they do have a tampon version. So I would recommend the tampon version of the CVS Live Better brand. If you don't want to use CVS or don't have access to CVS, there are brands like Cora and Rael, I think, or Rael, Rael. Those two brands also have pads. It's not 100% cotton through the top to the bottom, but I have used them in the past, the pads specifically, and haven't had any issues. So I would recommend those like next in line to try out their tampons. But yeah, so those would be the brands in general, but just fair warning and large disclaimer, I use pads. I don't use tampons. So I don't want you guys to try the tampons and be like, gee, they suck. Like, I'm so sorry if they do. Like, I don't use them. But that's the brand of pads that I use that honestly, like if I was going to reach for a tampon, I would reach and trust those 3 brands because I've used them, I love them, and I haven't had any issues. Next up, we have what kind of brand can you use to prevent getting BV, specifically suppositories. So if you are looking for suppositories, things to insert in your vagina, stay away from things like boric acid. If you do want something to insert, lactic acid gel or a probiotic suppository is what's going to keep BV away. So lactic acid gel, I like the Good Clean Loves lactic acid gel. It's a green bottle. I believe it's Restore. It's green packaging. The Restore gel, it's lactic acid base. It mimics the vaginal pH and it can help suffocate that bad bacteria and prevent the bad bacteria from overgrowing. And then they also have a probiotic suppository. I think that's called Refresh. And it's probiotics that you can insert in the vagina. But again, I will say it again, I cannot stress enough to just be mindful and be careful not to overdo it with things that you're inserting in the vagina, because too much of anything that's good is not good. So you don't want to overdo it with the good bacteria. You don't want to put too much probiotics, because then you can replace BV with cytolytic vaginosis and you might not even know it, because cytolytic vaginosis can mimic BV because it can be itchy, it could be burny, it could have discharge. So be careful. Obviously my best advice would always be to just take a good quality oral probiotic supplement like with Miracle-Co's that is meant to restore, and then also with consistent use maintain that good bacterial balance. But if you are looking for something to insert in the vagina immediately and get like immediate relief, lactic acid gel to bring the pH into the normal correct range, and then probiotic suppository to get the good bacteria in the vagina almost immediately so that the bad guys don't come back too soon. Next question is, can I take With Harmony with other vitamins? The answer is yes. Just be careful. Obviously, I mean, I feel like that's with anything. So like we have vitamin D in our With Clarity product. So like if you need additional vitamin D, we have 1,000 international units of it in our product. If you need additional, I used to, when I was vitamin D deficient, I was taking With Clarity and I was taking a 5,000 IU every other day of vitamin D with my With Clarity. So yeah, I mean, multivitamins are fine. Just make sure you're not overdoing it. So your doctor will likely know your medical history. I know some people take it alongside their prenatals during pregnancy. They confirm with their gynecologist, OBGYNs. So just make sure you're not overdoing it. But there's nothing really that I'd be like, oh my God, stay away from. Honestly, for the most part, you could take it if you're deficient in B vitamins. You need more vitamin C in. We have Thrive Immunity. You can take it with Thrive. So you could take it with other supplements for sure. I just recommend taking our product. I take it on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, but you could take it with or without food. So it's really up to you, but there's no real restriction unless your doctor knows your history specifically and has a restriction for you. But ultimately, there's no real restriction. And that kind of leads into the next question, which is quite also the last question. And it's quite literally the most important question when we're talking about infections. And it is, while taking antibiotics, will using vaginal probiotics help keep the area balanced? Yes, 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 and yes. This is so important because antibiotics are broad spectrum. So not only do they kill off and reduce the microbial load of bad bacteria that you're having the infection from, but they also do the same with good bacteria. And so a lot of people get yeast infections after antibiotics because it killed off their defenses, their good bacteria. A lot of people after antibiotic therapy with UTIs or even BV, they are stuck in a cycle of UTI after UTI after UTI because the antibiotics are killing off the good bacteria that they were already missing, or literally killing off any good bacteria that they had left. So ultimately, the key here is not having good bacteria. And you could take as much antibiotics as you want to kill off the bad guys, but the bad guys aren't the main problem. It's the fact that you don't have the good guys. So you absolutely should be taking probiotics while you're taking antibiotics. You just want to make sure that you space them out. So that is actually one of those things that you don't want to take together, because the antibiotics, as soon as it gets into the gut, as soon as it reaches inside of your body systemically, if you're taking it at the same time as probiotics, will kill off the good bacteria. And so my best advice, if you're taking antibiotics, usually the dosage is like a pill in the morning, a pill at night, like 12 hours apart. So I would take then the probiotics midday. If you are taking vaginal, if you are inserting vaginal gel, like Metro gel or clindamycin gel, I would use probiotics every morning. This time, when you are on antibiotics, this time period, the 7 to 10 days of antibiotics, could be meaningful to double dose on probiotics just to get that bacteria in, because some might still die off systemically from the antibiotics, even if you space them out. But the best way to ensure survival is spacing them out and then potentially double dosing just for that week or 10 days that you are on the antibiotics. So that is what I would recommend. And yes, it's just very important. A lot of people think, I'm on antibiotics, I need to avoid. No, you don't have to avoid. You just need to space out how you take it, just so that they have the best chance at survival. So yeah, guys, that was it for this episode. Those were the questions that I was able to get to. And and my team compiled and said, you definitely need to answer these. But I love doing these because I love getting your submissions and answering what you guys want to know. That means a lot to me. So thank you guys for participating in this episode. Thank you guys for watching. I love you guys so much. And let me know in the comments or even message me what else you want to see us talk about on the podcast. So without further ado, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.